at 6:38 a.m. Eastern Time. For our new viewers out there, Starlink is a constellation of satellites that can provide high-speed, low-latency internet all over the globe, particularly in remote areas where connectivity is limited or completely unavailable. And the rocket that you see on your screen there will be taking additional satellites to space in order to grow our constellation and expand our coverage. Now with that, let's get to know a little bit more about Falcon 9 and the launch pad that we're lifting off from today. Located in Merritt Island, Florida, Launch Complex 39A, or LC-39A, was originally designed to launch NASA astronauts on Saturn V vehicles. In 1967, Launch Complex 39A supported its first mission, launching the uncrewed Apollo 4 spacecraft, as well as the first Saturn V launch. Later, Pad 39A was remodeled to support the space shuttle. In addition to the first 24 space shuttle flights, this launch pad also supported the final shuttle flights until the fleet was retired in July of 2011. In May of 2013, NASA announced the opportunity to lease Launch Complex 39A, and we signed the lease in 2014. Now, 8 years later, we're well on our way to launch our 49th mission off 39A and our 48th mission of Starlink overall in just a few minutes from now. Now, the vehicle that you see on your screen is our Falcon 9 rocket, and the Starlink satellites are housed in the very top of the vehicle, and that's what you see on your screen. That's a structure called the fairing. Now, the job of the fairing is to protect the Starlink satellites until we reach the vacuum of space. But at that point, we no longer need the fairing, so we will jettison the fairing halves and attempt to retrieve them once they return back to Earth. Both the fairing halves protecting our Starlink satellites today will be flying for the third time on this mission. And below the fairing, we have the second stage. Now that's that shorter white stage above the black inner stage that houses our Merlin vacuum engine. After the first and second stages separate about 2.5 minutes into the flight, the second stage will ignite its single Merlin vacuum engine to carry the payload to its desired orbit. And last but not least, we have the first stage, also referred to as the booster. This portion of the rocket makes up over 60% of the entire length of the Falcon 9 vehicle. Now, as the name of the vehicle suggests, Falcon 9, attached to the bottom of the first stage are 9 Merlin M1D engines that accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere and into various orbits in space. The dark soot that you see around the lower part of the first stage are remnants from its previous launches. For this particular booster, it has experience supporting both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy missions. It supported COSMO-SkyMed and a Starlink mission, as well as supporting STP-2 and Arabsat 6A as a Falcon Heavy side booster. Now, what you can see on your screen there is our drone ship, A Shortfall of Gravitas. It's currently using its 4 thrusters to maintain position in the Atlantic Ocean. And the first stage will be, once it separates from the second stage, we will be attempting to recover the first stage for a 5th time on our drone ship, A Shortfall of Gravitas. We've got a great view there, too. Now you can see on your screen, there are those clamp arms just below the fairing opening up. Those clamp arms are attached to the transporter erector, that structure next to the vehicle. And it looks like the clamp arms have completed opening up, so we should see the transporter erector to start to move. And there you can see it on your screen. It's slow and slight, but the transporter erector is now moving away from the vehicle just slightly. And at liftoff, it will move even further away to clear the way as Falcon 9 lifts off. And there you can see it. Pretty cool close-up view of that transporter erector retracting back. We're coming up on prop load completion on the
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
And great timing. We got that call out that LOX load is complete on the first stage. That concludes prop load for first stage. Second stage will be wrapping up around the T-2 minute mark. And we always try to load the LOX as close to T0 as possible That allows us to keep the liquid oxygen as cold as possible, as dense as possible, so that we can load as much of it as possible into the vehicles. Again, first stage LOX load has already concluded. We're coming up here in about 15 seconds or so on second stage LOX load complete. Once we finish prop loading, we have the LOX line on the transporter erector. We will start to clear out that line, so you'll see a lot more of those white clouds because we'll be venting out the liquid oxygen line once we finish prop load.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
And good calls. Prop load is now complete on Falcon 9. And there you can see on your screen the venting of that liquid oxygen line on the transporter erector, and also a great view of pad 39A. You can see the fixed service structure, and that's used where
launch closeouts.
That's where the crewed astronauts will make their way up that fixed service structure and across the crew arm that you can see there when we fly crew. We're coming up on the T-minus 1 minute mark. At that time, the flight computers will take over the launch countdown. We should hear that call out here in a few seconds. Great call outs. Max Q should be coming up here in about 10 seconds or so.
Max Q.
And there's that call out. We just passed through Max Q. Now with that, we have a few events happening back to back very quickly, one after another. That'll be MECO, or main engine cutoff, stage separation, SES-1, or second stage engine startup 1, and then fairing deploy. MECO is where all 9 of those engines that you could see lit up on your screen, that is where those engines will shut down, and that helps slow the vehicle down in preparation for the next event, which will be stage separation. That's where the first and second stage separates from each other. First stage will start to make its way back home here on Earth, while the second stage continues on its journey, taking the Starlink satellites with it, with SES-1, or second stage engine startup 1, and that's where we will light up that single Merlin engine on the second stage, and that second stage will then propel the Starlink satellites to its targeted drop-off orbit.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
And back startup.
Bearing separation confirmed.
Great views of all 4 of those events. We had MECO, main engine cutoff, which we were able to see with the tracking camera. We had stage separation. On your left-hand screen, you can see a view from the first stage. On your right-hand screen is the view of the
Both
MVAC.
vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
Great call-outs, nominal trajectory so far. On your right-hand screen is a view of the MVAC engine on the second stage, and you can see that is lit up. And we also got a great view of fairing deploy. And with those fairing halves having deployed, they are now going to make their way back to Earth. And the second stage will now continue its journey to take its Starlink satellites to its targeted drop-off orbit. And some awesome views here on your screen with the Earth in the background.
Acquisition signal Bermuda.
Now, while second stage proceeds towards its targeted drop-off orbit, the first stage will be making its way back to Earth. And to do so, it will execute 2 burns. Now, the first burn is called the entry burn, and that is where 3 of those 9 M1D engines reignite. That helps slow the vehicle down as it enters back into the Earth's atmosphere. Then the second burn is called the landing burn. It's the final burn of the first stage. It's just the single center E9 engine. And that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to touch down.
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
In order to touch down on our landing zone. And again, today it is a Shortfall of Gravitas, our drone ship that is nearly the size of a football field. And it's currently located off the coast of South Carolina.